If you happen to come across this video while eating, it's definitely no coincidence. I'm sure you've never heard of this story about Van Damme before. Grab your coffee. Here we go. Jean-Claude Van Damme walks into a Rotterdam kickboxing gym carrying nothing but a gym bag when a 280-pound Dutch champion looks him up and down and laughs, says, "You're a dancer, not a fighter." What happens in the next 6 seconds doesn't just prove the champion wrong. It changes his entire understanding of what it means to be dangerous. Rotterdam, Netherlands, April 1983, Tuesday afternoon. The Combat Zone Gym on Wiena Boulevard. Not a gym for fitness tourists. Not a place with mirrors and motivational posters. This is where serious Dutch kickboxers come to destroy each other. Bare concrete walls. Heavy bags wrapped in duct tape. The smell of dried blood mixed with liniment and rubber flooring. Iron discipline built into every square meter. Jean-Claude Van Damme is 22 years old, 5'10", 165 pounds, dark hair, sharp eyes, a face that belongs on a movie screen rather than in a fighting gym. He's been in the Netherlands for 3 weeks, training, looking for serious competition, trying to sharpen himself against the best Europe has to offer. Back in Belgium, people already say he's exceptional. Good enough that his trainer sent him here specifically. Rotterdam is the highest level he can find outside of a title fight. He walks in carrying a small gym bag, wearing plain training clothes. Nothing about his appearance announces danger. Nothing about his appearance announces anything at all. He looks, to the men already inside, like someone who got lost on the way to an audition. There are 12 men training when he arrives, all of them large. The smallest is probably 200 pounds. Dutch kickboxers are known worldwide for a reason. These men hit like industrial machinery and absorb punishment with the same indifference. They look at Van Damme once, dismiss him completely, return to work. Jan de Vries is the one who doesn't look away. But you don't know yet what Jan de Vries is about to say. And you definitely don't know what Van Damme is about to do about it. Jan de Vries is 29. 280 pounds of force assembled into human form. Dutch kickboxing champion 3 times. Ranked 8th in the world by every organization that mattered in 1983. His left kick has sent 4 men to the hospital in the previous 18 months, not with malice. Simply because when 280 pounds of trained muscle whips a shin into your midsection at maximum velocity, hospitals become relevant. He's training in the corner, shadowboxing with a violence that makes the air move when he notices the new arrival. He watches Van Damme begin warming up. Leg stretches. Split position, full split, flat to the floor, relaxed, like it requires no effort at all. De Vries raises an eyebrow. Impressive flexibility, but flexibility is not fighting. Gymnasts have flexibility. Dancers have flexibility. He watches Van Damme move through combinations on the heavy bag, fast, clean, but something bothers de Vries about it, something he can't identify immediately, and then it clicks. Van Damme moves beautifully, too beautifully. Every technique has a visual elegance that belongs on a stage, not in a fight. Like someone who learned to fight by watching fights instead of surviving them. Like someone whose body has been trained for appearance rather than application. De Vries has seen this before. Sport karate men who look like masterpieces and shatter the moment a real punch lands. De Vries has broken 3 of them. He walks over. And here's where everything is about to change. Because de Vries is about to make the same mistake that confident men always make when they judge capability by appearance. De Vries stops 3 feet from Van Damme, folds his massive arms across his chest. Says nothing for a moment, just watches, lets the silence do the work, lets Van Damme feel the weight of being assessed and found lacking. Then he says in Dutch, his voice carrying through the entire gym so everyone hears, "You're a dancer, not a fighter." Van Damme stops hitting the bag, turns, looks at de Vries with an expression that is difficult to read. Not anger, not embarrassment, something more controlled than either. De Vries continues. "I've seen that style, pretty combination, perfect form." It works in point tournaments where nobody is allowed to actually hurt you. But in here, he gestures at the gym, at the scarred walls and the men bleeding lightly through training, at the entire brutal reality of the place. In here, pretty doesn't last 3 seconds. Van Damme says, "What would last 3 seconds?" De Vries smiles, not warmly. Power, size, conditioning that goes past pretty technique. He uncrosses his arms, bounces slightly on his feet. "You want to find out?" The gym has gone quiet. 11 men stop training, listening, watching. This is entertainment. This is the large man explaining reality to the small man, and the small man about to discover that the world doesn't care about elegant combinations. Van Damme says, "I'll show you one thing, one technique. If you can see it coming and block it, I'll leave. If you can't, we train together." De Vries laughs, genuinely amused. One technique from a Belgian ballet fighter. He has defended against thousands of techniques from men twice Van Damme's experience. He nods. Agreed. And now Van Damme says something that makes the whole gym hold its breath. He says, "I'm going to kick your left thigh. Right now. I'm telling you exactly what's coming and exactly where." De Vries stares. This is either supreme confidence or supreme foolishness. A technique announced in advance is a technique defended. Everyone in this gym knows that. You tell someone precisely what's coming and they stop it every time. The element of surprise is gone. The fight is already over before it starts. De Vries spreads his feet slightly, adjusts his stance. He knows the kick is coming to his left thigh. He will check it. He has checked 1,000 thigh kicks. He will lift his knee, let the shin receive the kick instead of the muscle, neutralize it completely. He has done this in championship fights against the best in Europe. Against a 165-pound man who just announced his intention, this is not even a challenge. It is a formality. The gym watches. Van Damme does not take a stance. He stands normally, feet shoulder width, relaxed, arms loose. He looks in this moment like someone about to ask directions, not someone about to kick a world-ranked champion. De Vries watches Van Damme's hips. That's where kicks begin. The hips rotate before the leg fires. Every fighter knows this. You read the hips and you have the half-second you need. De Vries is watching. His left knee is ready to rise. 6 seconds. In the first second, nothing happens. Van Damme simply stands. The tension in the room builds like pressure before a storm breaks. In the second, something shifts in Van Damme's weight. Subtle. A micro-transfer, barely visible, the kind of movement you only catch if you've trained for 10,000 hours to read bodies. De Vries sees it. His knee begins to rise. In the third second, Van Damme's right foot moves. Not a kick. A step. A simple forward step. De Vries's knee continues rising, following the expected trajectory, defending against the kick that is about to come. In the fourth second, there is no kick. There is a sound instead, sharp and clean, like a flat stone hitting water. Van Damme's shin has already arrived at De Vries's left thigh, not from the angle De Vries was defending, from a different angle entirely. Low. Inside. A trajectory that bypassed the rising knee completely, traveled under the defense, delivered with a precision that bypassed the rising knee completely, traveled under the defense, arrived at the vastus medialis where the muscle connects to the knee and the entire firing system of the leg lives. In the fifth second, De Vries's left leg stops working. Not pain exactly, more like a circuit breaker tripping. The muscle receives a signal it can't process, refuses the command to function, goes temporarily offline. His left knee drops. In the sixth second, Jan de Vries, 280-pound three-time Dutch kickboxing champion, goes down on one knee on the rubber floor of the combat zone gym. The room is completely silent. De Vries is conscious. He's fine. He knows he's fine. His brain is working perfectly, but his left leg is not receiving instruction. He looks down at it with the expression of a man who has discovered that the ground is not where he left it. His hands touch the floor for stability, not a collapse, a controlled descent into confusion. Van Damme stands where he was standing. He has not moved his feet. His expression has not changed. He looks like a man who placed a book on a shelf. Calm, efficient, unremarkable. One of the other fighters exhales. The sound breaks the silence. Then everyone is talking at once. De Vries's leg returns after 30 seconds. The muscle reemerges online slowly, the way a computer restarts after an unexpected shutdown. He tests it. It works. He stands, looks at Van Damme. He says, "You told me it was coming." Van Damme nods. "Exactly where?" "Yes." De Vries is quiet for a moment. "I was watching for it and I still couldn't stop it." Van Damme says, "You were watching for the kick you expected." "I delivered the kick that existed, not the same thing." This is the moment that changes everything, not the technique itself. Those words. De Vries sits down on a bench, puts his elbows on his knees, thinks. He has been fighting for 15 years. He has defended against every technique in kickboxing's vocabulary. He has never been on one knee from a technique that was announced in advance. He needs to understand what just happened, because understanding it means he becomes better, and not understanding it means he carries a vulnerability he can't defend. He says, "Show me again," slowly. Van Damme walks over, sits beside him, does not demonstrate immediately, talks first, explains the principle, the difference between the kick your opponent expects and the kick you deliver, how expectation creates a defense shaped like a prediction, how prediction creates a gap between the defense and the reality, how that gap, measured in millimeters and milliseconds, is where technique lives. "You defended against the kick in your mind," Van Damme says. Kick in your mind arrived from the angle you'd seen 100 times. Your body built a wall exactly where that kick would land, but that kick never came. A different one did. De Vries stares at the floor, then says, "How long have you trained?" Van Damme tells him the full history. Shotokan karate at age 10. Ballet from 11 to 16, which De Vries starts to say something about, and Van Damme raises a hand. "Ballet taught me to move my body in space with precision. Karate gave me the technique. Muay Thai gave me the weapon. But none of those things alone is what you just experienced. What you experienced is the result of understanding that fighting is not about what you can do. It's about the gap between what your opponent expects and what you actually deliver." De Vries is quiet for a long time. Then he says, "You want to train here?" Van Damme says, "Yes." "You train with me. I'll work your power. You're not heavy enough yet." Good technique dies against real weight without real power behind it. Van Damme nods. "And you train with me. Not your kickboxing, your perception. The gap between expectation and reality." They shake hands. For the next 6 weeks they train together every day. De Vries hits Van Damme harder than anyone has ever hit him. Van Damme doesn't break. He absorbs, adapts, returns. De Vries comes to understand that the 165-pound man generates force through mechanics so precise that weight becomes less relevant than he believed. Van Damme comes to understand that no technique, however perfect, survives without the conditioning to deliver it under real punishment. They make each other better in exactly the ways they needed to grow. On the last day before Van Damme returns to Belgium, De Vries tells the gym what happened that first afternoon. Tells it in full, including the knee on the floor, including the 30 seconds when his leg forgot how to function. Some of the men had seen it. Most had only heard pieces. De Vries tells it straight, with no embellishment and no embarrassment. Says, "I called him a dancer. He showed me that the most dangerous thing in a fight is not power or size. It's precision in the gap between what you expect and what's real." 3 years later, Van Damme goes to Hollywood. The rest of the world sees what De Vries saw on a Tuesday afternoon in Rotterdam. But what they see on screen, the speed, the precision, the angles that arrive from directions you weren't defending, those were already there in 1983. Already formed. Already proven on a concrete floor in front of 12 fighters who never forgot what 6 seconds looked like when deployed by someone who understood the gap between expectation and reality. Jan de Vries went on to win his 4th Dutch championship in 1985. He tells everyone who asks that the best training of his career happened in 6 weeks with a Belgian who weighed 165 pounds and announced every technique in advance. The lesson never required secrecy to land. That's what made it unforgettable. What assumptions are you defending against right now? What attack have you built a wall against that isn't the one actually coming? Because the gap between expectation and reality exists in every field, every negotiation, every conversation, every challenge. And the people who understand that gap don't need surprise to win. They just need precision. Van Damme gave De Vries that lesson in 6 seconds. He'd spent 12 years earning the right to deliver it that fast.